I hope you like the desert because we are right in the middle of both Coachella weekends, aka the branded Super Bowl social media moment. So what's going on this year and how do brands make such a crazy week of activations worth it? Welcome to Marketing Brew Weekly. I'm Jenny Wynn, reporter at Marketing Brew.
I'm Kelsey Sutton, editor.
And I'm Katie Hicks, senior reporter. Let's get into it.
So as we shared in last week's episode, we are up for a Webby Award, which is so exciting. This is your last chance, so if you've not already voted for Marketing Brew Weekly, please go ahead, find the link in our show notes, and send us a vote if you'd like.
Please.
All right.
Please, pretty please.
We'd love it. We will be grateful forever. So let's talk about music festival marketing and Coachella. Brands, I feel like they just cannot resist.
I know.
Let's talk about, yeah.
Well, there's so much going on this year in terms of headliners. I feel like I'm kind of curious. Have you guys ever been to Coachella? Would you guys go?
I haven't. I think I would like it, but I also fear just the crowds. There's so many people there now, not just influencers, but like just in general. Like I just feel like social media has made it a huge event.
I feel like I would have done it if it was the time to do it. I would have been when I was a younger person.
We're all a little
have
too
to
old.
rewind the clock a little.
I need a seat now. I can't
think
be standing that long.
I think I don't have the stamina. I don't think I can handle it.
Well, they're hoping you have the stamina because they're kind of rolling out the red carpet with a lot of headliners this year. We've got Justin Bieber, we've got Sabrina, we've got Cat's Eye, my girls, and K-pop people.
Addison Rae,
Carol G, like kind of a big like diverse lineup in that way. So I feel like there's a lot of excitement for the headliners, and of course the brands follow. But who are you guys excited about this year? Anyone?
Well, I don't know if I'm excited, I guess, for next weekend, but did you catch the marionette performance? Because that's right up your alley, and I think we need to talk about that really quickly.
What? I've been offline this weekend.
There was a marionette performance where they danced to the Ben Platt cover of Diet Pepsi.
I'm going to Coachella. Sign me up.
My actual dream. I think it's a puppet group in LA that's like very well known, and it's like a very like sacred part of local culture, but they got a Coachella set. And you know what? That's what we should be doing at Coachella. Brands, pay attention to the puppets.
Marionettes are going to be huge this year.
In 2027, it's marionette everything. I'm going to have to watch this immediately.
I can't wait to show you.
This is amazing.
I can't wait. But first, growth is more than just a buzzword that CEOs love to throw around. It's also really important for plants, influencers, and of course, subscription streaming services.
And there just so happens to be one streaming platform that's really pulling ahead of the rest.
Paramount Plus is the fastest growing subscription streaming service for 3 years in a row, which means that more and more eyes are glued to Paramount Plus every single year.
And you can tap into that giant growing audience with Paramount Ads Manager.
Paramount Ads Manager can help you target specific demographics like age, income, zip code, and niche interests and behaviors, and then run retargeting campaigns to reconnect with past viewers or website visitors back on the big screen.
Don't have a TV ad? Their team can help you make one at no additional charge.
Get your brand on the platform that's growing fast at ParamountAdsManager.com. That's ParamountAdsManager.com.
So we've talked about the marionette performance.
We got the puppets out of the way.
Got the puppets out of the way. Where have the brands been marketing this year? What have you two seen?
They're all over the place. If you look at a map of the grounds, there are so many activations from brands that I don't think you would necessarily expect. At least I wouldn't as someone who has never been. Like there were Rivian cars and there's Barbie and there's, like White Claw, which is like expected at a music festival.
Sure. Motrin. That's crazy.
Let's talk about like the houses. Like there's a Motrin house, which is so funny to me. And they had all this influencer content. You wouldn't expect Motrin to be a brand that's like tapping creators like that.
But they're like, the headaches will be powerful. So
it makes sense.
The pain relief must be there too.
People will need us.
I feel like Motrin showing up in that way taps into two strategies that stand out to me at Coachella this year, and I imagine years past too, of having a house, like you mentioned, having this like big physical presence. And I think when you do that as a brand that like is unexpected, it is like really like a whoa, like you do a double take probably when you're on the grounds, probably when you see on social media, like what's Motrin doing here? And just like actually providing something that's useful. Like you said, people will have headaches being in the heat if you're drinking a lot, whatever it is. I feel like that is something I've noticed a ton this year of like, if you are going to show up, like be useful, have something that people actually want. So I think Motrin actually makes a lot of sense, even though at first is like, what? Why are you here?
Yeah, I feel like I've seen that too. Neutrogena has a big presence at this year's Coachella, and one of the things that they're doing is they're giving away sunscreen. That feels like a very high kind of value add brand presence, and I think we're seeing a little bit more of that sampling that's like actually helpful to somebody who's attending, and I think that kind of makes a lot of sense because brands sort of have to earn the attention of attendees, right? Like if you're going, presumably you're going because you want to see the headliners, you want to see the music. And so a brand has to not just say, here, I'm here, come sit in a house because it's cool or whatever, but like you're competing with Justin Bieber. So like you have to really be giving something valuable to a person who says, I'm going to take 5 minutes out of my day to actually pop in here.
But even giving them air conditioning is a favor, and I think some people are camping out, so they want a little spot to like go inside and be cold. But yeah, I feel like providing a service is a huge thing here. It's like I bet there were brands giving out like phone banks for like batteries, and like they were giving out water and like different things that people would want while they're at a festival like this.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if you are going to show up, you obviously have to like you're both trying to get the regular attendee and also the crowds of influencers and creators that do go. Like obviously a lot of brands invite creators and influencers and take them with, but like that's not the only group of people making content that's going to be seeing your stuff. You want to attract everyone who's going by, and like you have to both give them something that they want and I think like be amazing to look at or have something interactive. We've talked a lot about how like photo ops are just like kind of table stakes. Like obviously it's expected at this point. Obviously, brands still do it. What do you guys think? Do you like seeing the like cutesy photo ops, the interactive elements? Does it do it for you as like both as like a marketing expert and also just someone observing?
I think honestly, like having the backdrop that gets somebody to say, let me take a photo, etc. That feels like the absolute bare minimum. You're so right. It's table stakes because it's like, why am I going to take a photo here if I don't like, I could take a photo literally anywhere else. And I think also a lot of creators and also, you know, users just like who are maybe not like at a creator tier are looking for a little bit dressed down sort of content. And so, and a lot more video content. So it's like it has to video well, but also there has to be something else, something interactive perhaps. Maybe I'm trying on some skincare. I think Medicube is going to be there for the first time, and they're doing a lot of sampling. They're also doing karaoke, which is like kind of funny and like, but it's like, yeah, well, I get like, it's something to do, right? So, and that's very easily photographed, videoed, and then shared. And then, of course, there's all that branding that comes along with that, and the goodwill that maybe comes from an experience like that.
Yeah, helps you stand out from the crowd for sure, especially when everyone is like showing up in all of these different ways. Another big strategy that I feel like is very important to Coachella in particular is out of home and billboards in particular.
Definitely.
I talked to Goodwipes, who we just talked about on the April Fool's episode, and they had a billboard this year on the way to Indio, the road to Indio, as apparently the out-of-homers call it. They worked with Quan, a media agency who did their billboard, and they talked about how like just like getting people on the way as they're so excited is a big thing. They had a lot to say, but one of the things that I asked Meredith, who is the CMO of Goodwipes, about is whether she thinks Coachella is dead, because there's so much activation there that I feel like this is always something that people bring up and they're like, oh, is it even worth it to go to Coachella anymore? Both as like a regular attendee and as a brand. And she had some interesting thoughts, so let's take a listen.
My opinion is it's not dead, but it's got competition, right? Like Stagecoach is becoming really, really, bigger, and it's obviously also a Golden Voice festival. And, I don't think it's dead, but there's certainly competition. So you've got to be smarter about how you activate. And I think they're being smart, like Golden Voice is being smart about who they're bringing to headline, right? They've got a bunch of like K-pop artists that, this is a new stage for them. We're bringing back a lot of like millennial favorites, Cascade, who's like, he's probably headlined 10, 15 years ago. I'm a Chicagoan and I love him. So I think they're being smart about like how they keep it relevant with the lineup, with, emerging artists, established artists, so they don't run the risk of being dead. But like certainly there are other festivals chomping at the bit.
I think this is so interesting because I think that one of the things that brands are constantly kind of evaluating is like, what is new and what is established and where do I go to both? And the thing that's kind of funny about Coachella is like, it's a brand in and of itself, right? And like, so bringing in new artists, et cetera, that could also bring in younger, newer, maybe first timers who hadn't been before. And so these brands who are kind of established or have been here in the past, they have this opportunity to tap into like this new engaged audience. I also think that there is kind of like the veneer of the festival itself, right? So like if you pick and you work with an established music festival, you kind of get that, the halo effect, right? Of I'm associated with, affiliated with Coachella. It gives me a sense of legitimacy, scale, scope, importance that comes along with that. At the same time, again, when there is this conversation about is it worth showing up, is it lame or whatever, are there other ones that are like more cutting edge or new? There are some brands that I think are probably evaluating, maybe I need to go to that new one, that thing that's brand new because my brand is cutting edge and stand out, versus somebody that says, I want to be in that established place because I want to be known as a brand that's like reliable and always there and also like important enough to be at something. But I would love to know your thoughts about this. I think it's a really interesting calculus.
At the same time, I feel like brands are not giving up on Coachella, kind of like to the point that she just made. It's like they're going bigger. Like Neutrogena flew a bunch of people in on a private jet. And
Crazy.
like Starbucks had a house and they hosted creators and they slept in the house and they had blankets given to them that had like a venti macchiato on it and like all this stuff. And they were like, we're stocked on coffee for the whole weekend. Like, and there's a pool and all this stuff going on. Like they're just doing bigger things to stand out, I think.
Yeah, I think the stakes keep getting raised while consumers from the outside are like, oh my God, it's getting ruined by brands. But I don't think brands feel that way at all because it is such an event. It has this like almost like legacy power as like the big festival. And it sits kind of at the beginning of like festival season. And Meredith mentioned Stagecoach, like comes right after. I imagine people do things at Coachella and then they're like, ooh, how can we apply this later on? I asked Meredith and her agency partner, Brian of Quan, about whether that actually is something that you can do. Like you do something at Coachella and then you like turn around later in the festival season. Most of the time, it's too quick. Like you actually can't do that. But it is such a valuable testing ground almost because people pay so much attention to it and so many people are there and so many creators are there. I think the creator element is so interesting because like that's how so many people like these days actually like interact with Coachella. If you're not there, if you can't afford to pay the thousands of dollars to go, it's like, I'm going to watch all my favorite creators get in on Coachella and like get invited. I feel like there's some drama this year with creators, which we could spend a whole episode talking about.
There always is.
Always is. It's like a little reality show for the weekend, I feel like.
I mean, do you remember a couple of years ago, Revolve? They're still doing Revolve Festival, which is their own like side festival that they do around Coachella with their own artists. This year, I think they have, who was it? Like Don Tolliver, Mustard, Kehlani, like they do this every year. And a few years ago, they had like this big moment where people were upset about like their buses weren't coming on time. They weren't able to get to the venue and like influencers were complaining and people were like, oh, this is just a sign that like everything's, influencers are out of touch and brands are out of touch and they shouldn't be doing this stuff. Like we can't even have access to this thing. We're seeing them complain about it. They're still doing it. Like, they didn't give up on Coachella. They're still coming back every year.
Yeah, but I think that critique kind of comes back every year too. I definitely saw it this year of that people being like, oh, like, why should I care about the brands and the influencers going to Coachella when the world is on fire? So it is something to consider, I think, when you're planning what you're going to do and you're going big and extravagant. There's this pressure to like be really cool and be like the standout brand. There's also just like a whole audience of people that this is never going to be accessible to, and that is maybe worth considering when you're figuring out what you're going to do at this big cultural event.
On that point, though, I mean, I think the YouTube streaming aspect of all of this is a big thing this year, too, because they're showing you all the concerts. You don't have to rely on creators this year to see who's performing or what people are doing on the grounds. Like, you've got a visual by tuning into YouTube and seeing the live stream of all the different festival stages all at once. So I think that's another thing. It's like, this is a big marketing moment for YouTube, too.
Yeah. Speaking of the artists themselves, I kind of want to dig into what the artists are doing to market themselves, because Coachella is also a huge marketing moment for the artists who are huge in their own right, and they bring a lot of marketing to the festival, but they are platforming themselves as a brand, often the brands that they own. Justin Bieber, for example. What have you guys seen from him?
Yeah, so he has a brand, Skylark. I think it's pronounced like that, although there's no A.
No vowels.
No vowels except for maybe Y.
Yeah, right.
Which is sometimes a vowel. But he wore that's his brand. He wore a Skylark hoodie there. And he's like done this at various other performances. I think he wore some boxers to the Grammys and they were visible and you could see the branding. But there's also something that's kind of interesting because Justin Bieber is married to Hailey Bieber, who owns Rhode Beauty, co-founded Rhode Beauty. And so there was a sort of special collection right ahead of Coachella called Rhode X the Biebers. And it's some skincare stuff. It's not really explicitly tied to Coachella, but the timing you have to acknowledge is like this very clearly is kind of taking advantage of the fact that there is this going to be this big spotlight moment.
Well,
Rhode
Hailey was
also-
there. Yeah,
yeah.
Rhode was doing an activation with Elf too at the festival because they're now owned by Elf. And
Yes.
Hailey was there present and she was kind of talking to fans of the brand. So her presence alone was like marketing for her own brand there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
I think a fun fact about the Skylark hoodie is that apparently Google searches for pink hoodies just surged this weekend, which of course it did because Justin Bieber wore a pink hoodie, so everyone must wear a pink hoodie.
Did you see that he's got phone cases that hold joints kind of based off of the Rhode lip gloss phone case?
Wow.
He's selling that.
That's
around-
innovation.
Around Coachella, yeah.
It really is.
Another fun artist thing that I saw was Sabrina Carpenter, another headliner, had a pit stop activation with Airbnb as a partnership, and it's off of Route 111, and it's like on the way to the festival, and you have to like pull off the road and go to the specific activation. You can get exclusive merch, which is very fun. And then actually Brian of Quan also worked with her brand Scent Beauty, her beauty brand, and they wrapped buses. And he said that they essentially there's no people on the buses. It's just buses moving around the festival grounds with the wrapping on it, and it acts as like a moving billboard, and people like are excited about it. They're like, oh, is it her tour bus? Like, is she in there? So I think it's an interesting, like, it's both her brand, but it's marketing for herself as well. And it's all one ecosystem.
Yeah, and I feel like with more artists who are kind of becoming brands in their own right, like there's so many pop musicians who also have a beauty brand or a clothing line or a makeup brand. Like there are these increasing opportunities where they can kind of use that, I hate to use the word synergy, but really it kind of applies here, right? Like taking that moment and saying, okay, we're going to blow this moment out. And I really like the idea of the fact that it kind of extends beyond the festival grounds, obviously, like not just for people attending, right? Like on the way, you're seeing the billboards, you're stopping at an activation, but of course it all filters out onto social, right? And so people are saying, I want to buy this limited edition. I want to buy the pink hoodie. I'm not there, but I want to look like that because I'm plugged in. And so there is that kind of huge cultural effect that kind of like ripples out from Coachella grounds.
I also want to talk about, I know we talked about the billboards with brands too, but like the artist billboards are like very interesting to me as a marketing tactic because they're also like memey and they're kind of like formatted like shit posts. Like they're very like funny. I don't know, like the somber one, like somber spelled SOMBR. He had like somber is now spelled SOMBER. The E's for excitement. And like Leve was like, visit this website to like learn how to pronounce my name with a picture of her crying. Like it's all very funny the way that they market themselves in this very like humorous, very internet savvy kind of way.
Yeah. Even to go back to the Good Wipes example, theirs is for their product, but their actual copy on the board was like something about like just in time. I should have written this down, but like it's a play on Justin's name and it's punny. It's like, it's of the moment. I feel like, there's something in like the sarcasm and the like being witty and being a little silly with it on the way to the festival, which I'm sure gets people.
Well, because it's like it needs to be witty enough that somebody whips out their phone and takes a photo of it or takes a video of it or something. And so you have to like catch somebody's attention fast enough that they can do that before they've driven past the billboard. You know, I think that's just such an interesting sort of thing. Like, again, the stakes are, because it's so saturated, you really have to like come up with a reason for somebody to spend the time to record it. If social is kind of the purpose, or sign up for something or go to a website or what have you.
Yeah, and I feel like all of these things also have to work together, right? Like you want people to see the billboard and then see your activation and then see your thing on social. And I feel like it's a lot of competition, as we've mentioned, but it's a lot of like hopefully things like building this environment that everyone wants to tap into, which Brian actually had something interesting to say about just like what this all builds to is kind of a sense of FOMO. So let's hear it from him. Let's take a listen.
Like influencers, they go hand in hand, and I think the amount of content you get out of there and like the creator environment that kind of stems from Coachella is perfect for brands if you do it the right way. I mean, I was like on my phone before this, and I was scrolling, and we're working with Lola Blankets, and they have a whole Lola house out there. At least I think they do. And like all these blankets and like amazing, like just the content. It's like, A, I now want to buy my 15th Lola blanket that we already have spent so much money on in my house. And B, it just looks like such a fun, like I get FOMO every year that like I am looking at Coachella content from all the different brands that I follow, and I've never been there before. And it's no different than like the FOMO I get from like all of the amazing, every time I look at a video of a Fanatics party at a major sporting event that Michael Rubin throws, and I'm like, oh, I wish I was there.
Yeah, I wish I was there, right? Like that's exactly what a brand wants to make you feel that way. Coachella, the festival, wants to make you feel that way. And all the artists want to make you feel that way, because then you'll listen to their music, you'll buy their products, you'll buy the brand, maybe a limited edition thing or whatever. I think that this thing about social is so interesting though, because we have seen something from Pinterest this year at Coachella that is phone free. How do you do FOMO phone free? Katie, I feel like you maybe have more thoughts on this, but this is such an interesting kind of thing.
I just think it ties into like this idea that like we're moving into an era where like everything is online. So eventually like the luxury or like the sign of like I'm in the know and you're not is like I was at this thing that you will never have access to seeing, which is interesting because there's really a conflict with this social media period that we're in, where everything again is just like so public and you're sharing and you're proving to people that you're doing cool stuff. But like, yeah, I don't know how you exactly prove that you went to the Pinterest activation, but if you went and people are like, what's it like? I mean, the only way you would know is if you were there, if you knew someone who went.
Well, I definitely saw creators posting about being invited to the phone free experience before they got there, before the weekend even started. And I feel like that's got to be a key part of Pinterest strategy this year, is like getting the word out early and getting people to talk about the phone free experience on social media, which is quite hypocritical, but it's just the reality of the world that we're in.
Gotta build intrigue somewhere.
Yeah. So,
right, and that builds a lot of FOMO too. I want to be phone free. I want to be there, you know?
I mean, that's the ironic thing about all of this is like we see this move of people being like, I'm going offline, I'm getting a dumb phone, whatever, but they're posting content telling you that they're getting a dumb phone. It's like, it's this idea of like performative offlineism.
It's the age-old like posting on Twitter, I'm taking a social media break. No one needed to know that you were taking a social media break.
You could have just stopped posting.
Yeah, that would have been really, so it's kind of a continuous cycle, but just in a different way, which is very interesting. I'm curious to see if other brands will do something like that. I really feel like I agree. Like the hottest status symbol is like a low screen time at this point, which we all yearn for low screen time.
We're trying our best.
Yeah. What else do you guys think is coming for Coachella, music festival marketing? Obviously, we're at the start of it. I grew up in the Chicago area, so like Lollapalooza is a big one for me. I'll be keeping an eye on that. What do you think will be something to keep an eye on as it continues?
I mean, it's a recurring trend. And again, we've talked about how this kind of happens every year, but I do think like a growing sense of influencer fatigue is going to lead people to want to see more content from regular schmegular people at the festival. I think we saw this with a few people who posted like, hey, like there's one clip that I saw where these girls were like, we're regular ass bitches. Here are our outfits for the weekend. And they got like 500,000 likes on TikTok, and people seemed to like be really excited that they were seeing just like regular people going to Coachella that weren't necessarily like big stars.
I feel like it kind of piggybacking off of this idea, but like this idea that we can have experiences for regular people. I think experiential, again, building something that is branded, but also people are like, I'm having fun going to do this thing. And it's not just for creators, right? Like, I think that we're seeing kind of the democratization of like the creator experience for regular schmegular people. And I think that that's something we may continue to see again. But I think Coachella is like such a good playground to test out what works. And then that can be reapplied not just to other musical festivals, that can be applied to sports events, like anything that's like a big moment where a brand can show up. Like you can pull a lesson or like what really worked. Like does giving out sunscreen like go really hard? Like, I'm going to say yes, because we should not be getting skin cancer in 2026 if we can help it. So it's like, maybe that shows up at the US Open again. I think that's something we've seen before. It's like, but I think value and like experiences that actually a regular person can enjoy, that like, I feel goes a really long way versus like flying people out on a plane, which is like, okay, that benefits like 5 people.
Well, we've seen that before Coachella with like the democratization of the creator experience is such a great way to put it, because I think you wrote a story, Katie, about like taking regular people on brand trips, and like obviously Coachella is like the ultimate brand trip, but it's happening outside of Coachella as well. And I think it's an interesting strategy because something like Coachella, so many people are posting about it. How can you, like, it's almost hard to predict like what regular person is going to break through, you know? It's like if you as a brand want to tap into that and like work with a regular person, how do you know that their stuff is going to like make any noise amidst all of the big creators and celebrities and brands posting about it? I think it's a continuous struggle with like the brand trips too. Like when you take regular people, it's like they don't have followings. So
yeah, at the same time that we saw some backlash, I mean, like Starbucks is in hot water with some people who are against like some of their company policies, and we saw some backlash to, there was one creator named Bran Flakes, and he was staying at the Starbucks house, and he saw some people get mad at him as a result. So it's like, even if you bring a big creator, like you as the creator or you as the brand could face some backlash, and like then just because you have a big audience doesn't necessarily mean it's going to land.
yeah, definitely. But outside of the social stuff, I feel like there's still so many different ways that like this can continue to evolve. Brian obviously works in the out of home world, so he had some interesting ideas for what's coming out of home in the future here. So let's give him a listen.
A take on Ariel, like, is going to be the next amplification. You know, whether that is not skywriting, but something that's a little bit more unique and digital. There was something that caught my attention last year in the out-of-home world that I'm like very bullish on. It's essentially like a helicopter carrying a massive digital screen, and you could like rent it out by like hours.
Okay, I feel like brands are so hungry for an audience. So flying a giant screen over their heads is like certainly one way.
Yeah.
You're going to hear it.
Be so scared. What if it falls?
What if? Apparently that's like a huge consideration, is that you got to be careful where you fly these giant screens over, because we don't want it falling on people. So,
But honestly, it's like if you run out of room on the ground or on the road to Coachella, like you can always
Go up.
look up. Yeah.
yeah.
Basically, marketers will get you by land, by sea, by air, wherever they can get you, they'll come.
Everything's an ad if you want it to be an ad. Speaking of ads, we are right in the middle. Next week is weekend 2. Is there anything you guys are like hoping to see from brands? Anything you're keeping an eye on? What's exciting to you as we move into the second weekend?
I think I would like to see some brands reach out to some of those regular people who've been posting and just get them involved in some way. And like when it comes to, you know, will they amplify enough? Post it to your brand channels and show everybody that you got these people who went viral for just showing their regular outfits to like come to your activation, and you reward them as such.
Yeah, I love that. I really do think, again, like catering to the common folk. And again, if you're at Coachella, like you're not
Right.
one, like you've clearly cleared some
got some money
hurdles
to spend.
financially, but like we like the relatable people. And I think that again, like as part of the creator backlash, are you targeting and giving value to a regular person? And I think that's where brands can really kind of just make inroads and like make an impression on a consumer.
Bring Coachella back to the common people, the regular folks, for sure.
Make it free.
That's the dream. Then I'd go, for sure. Easy. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. I do want to give a quick shout out. We have a creator-focused event in New York City in person here. Come join us if you can, live stream if you can't. All information in the show notes. If you want to send us an email, talk to us about Coachella, send us a note at mkbw@morningbrew.com, which you can also find in the show notes. And thank you so much. Catch you next week.